Hey everyone, thanks for joining us this morning or afternoon if you're on the East Coast. And today we're welcoming you to 10 Tips to Engage Play with Megan Lotz. My name is Ivan Silva, and I run a makerspace at the Tiburon Library in Marin County, Bay Area. And today we are being hosted by Library Makers, which is a community that connects and supports library staff from all over the country in libraries big and small. And whether you're just getting started or you've been making for many years, Library Makers invites you to ask questions, share your experience, and connect with colleagues. It's a bit of a social platform where you can engage in discussions about making in libraries and learning and professional development. Today, as part of that, what we offer Library Makers, we are welcoming Megan Lotz. She's an art librarian at Rutgers. She has authored two books, Advancing a Culture of Creativity in Libraries and The Playful Library. Her research interests include creativity, outreach and engagement, makerspaces, play, and the work of library liaison. This presentation will explore the ways in which cultivating a sense of play in work fosters flexibility, creativity, innovation, teamwork, and increased patron and community engagement. I'm really excited to introduce Megan to the group today and for her to share her insights with us. Megan, I'm going to ask you to share your presentation with us. I'm going to stop sharing.
Great, thank you. All right. And even though I've done this 1,000 times, hold on, let's see. Share screen options. Nope, let's just share. Whoop. Let me try that one more time. There we go. Okay. So hopefully you are all seeing a colorful brain, half-sided brain at this point. Awesome. All right, great. So, good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here with you all today. I'd like to start by thanking library makers Yvonne Silva and Kelly Nimitz for the support in inviting me to present today. And to all of you, thank you for your time and presence. My name is Megan Lotz, and I'm the art librarian and a tenured faculty member at Rutgers, the State University in New Jersey. On this slide above, you'll see my bio, which can also be found on my website, so I won't read that to you. Here you can read the abstract for today's presentation, which was in the publicity, and certainly if you'd like a copy of the slides after the fact, please let me know. This particular slide is going to give you an idea of what our time together will look like. I'm gonna present for a little bit, give you 10 tips. We're gonna wrap up and talk about what you learned and then have a Q&A and discussion. And unless anyone has any questions, we'll get started. So let's talk about play. By its very nature, play is hard to define. You know it when you experience it, and you can make a list of emotions that you might experience when playing, but it's really impossible to say exactly what it is. It can be an action, an ephemeral experience. It can take place alone or in a community. It can be quiet or loud, and it often involves learning by doing. Both as a noun and a verb, the word play can describe a dramatic performance, a move in a game, engaging in an enjoyable activity, or simply joking around. In fact, there are 9 pages devoted to the term in the Oxford English Dictionary, where it's noted that the word has often been used as a catch-all for every type of behavior that doesn't seem to serve some immediately goal or directed purpose. Play and creativity belong in libraries and makerspaces for many reasons, and that's really including the fact that the skills that play strengthen are needed for library employees, museum employees, really any employee, but they're also needed for our patrons and our researchers. The concept, feeling, creativity, and play are both infinitely flexible. In truth, they're lenses through which we can see concepts, they're lenses through which we see, and they're concepts that can be applied to almost any situation. We can find play in museums, libraries, playgrounds, classrooms, and more. And this is because these are the powerful tools and the ways of thinking which encourage humans to connect, to learn, and to engage. In libraries and museums, we see collections that often reflect the play supports physical, cognitive, social, emotional development, and it promotes well-being. Other organizations engage creative and playful outreach and marketing strategies to reach out to their communities in exciting ways, bringing new users and physical spaces and their virtual spaces in their libraries. And some libraries are playfully activating underused liminal spaces, which are transitional spaces such as stairwells and corridors. And we also see play specifically represented in many ways, including cosplay, games collections, maker spaces, creative art therapies, which we'll also refer to as CATs, health and wellness initiatives, and really so much more. And there's no limit to places where creativity and play can be found in libraries if we, as employees, embrace our imaginations, let go, feel the flow, and engage with the process. So, one of the greatest misconceptions about creativity and play is that can only happen in a prescribed space, including technology, fancy furniture, or fresh paint, which simply isn't true. I can confirm this because when it comes to my job in the art library where I work, I have no money, no authority, and our walls are desperate for paint. Now, I say that, but on the flip side of that, when you have crummy walls that need painted, you can get away with a lot more than if you have beautifully new fresh walls that have recently been painted. So, something to think about. Play doesn't have a look. It's really about the learning and engagement that's happening in any given space. And being, thinking, and working in a playful manner can really happen anywhere. The spaces need to be flexible and adaptable. So, whatever needs to happen can happen. And really, never more have I seen this idea revealed as libraries navigate a pandemic. Post pandemic, maybe we'll see another pandemic. Maybe we're in an endemic stage. Who really knows? But the beauty of all this is that our events, programs, services, and ideas that we've never thought virtually possible have transformed, and sometimes for the better. I give a lot more virtual presentations. I engage with people on the West Coast where I'm on the East Coast today, and this is really exciting. We could do this before, but now we do it in a really different, more fluid and engaging way, and I think that that's really exciting. But also, this gives us an opportunity to rethink who we are. And maybe we could even put behind some of those traditional services or programs, which maybe aren't having the impact they once were. But also, never more have we needed physical and virtual welcoming spaces like libraries where we can come together and play. So, I want to talk about flow for a minute. Many definitions of play say that it's an activity that has no purpose, but it doesn't mean that it has no benefits. Yet, in truth, we play because it is fun. Sometimes play experiences can be energizing and transformative. They help us get into the flow. Now, the concept of flow is really important because we want to get into the flow. This was identified in the 1970s by a Hungarian psychologist. And to describe really what flow is it's a mental state in which you're fully immersed or focused on the task at hand. Sometimes you even lose track of time. After engaging in play, my partner will often exclaim, "What time is it?" And then he'll follow that up with, "I was having so much fun, I lost track of time." This is an indication that he was experiencing a flow state. This is actually also an assessment moment. He was learning something likely and he was having a good time. And both of those things came together. And for me, really, when I describe entering my own personal flow state or the moment when my body takes over and my brain follows. For me, this might be when I'm swimming laps at the pool, when I'm playing a game, when I'm walking my dogs, when I'm curled up on the couch with my iPad, working on a digital drawing project. And really, this will be different for everyone, even though many of us will share common ways in which we like to play. The key to getting and reaching really that flow state is balancing intuitive, reflective action and conscious thought. And these are some things that just often happen in makerspaces, whether we pinpoint exactly what we're calling them. This is what is actually happening. And it's in this flow state where people often describe they lose their anxieties about an activity. And that's when the process and us let the process take over. I also want to note that we have to keep in mind that there's no such thing as failure. We learn from all experiences. They help us guide in what comes next. With every project, event, service, really anything you're working on, ask yourself questions. Think about your outcomes. Regularly ask yourself, what did you learn? What might you do different next time? What will you do the same next time because it blew you away and you had no idea that this was happening? Keep track of what's happening. And let's also not take ourselves too seriously or get lost in what we've done in the past or can't do. And let's focus on what's possible now. and the opportunities that are right in front of us. And it's important to try something new and not get caught up in the preciousness or the fine details. And let's face it, working together can be hard, especially when we work in spaces and places where different people have different responsibilities and different jobs. At Rutgers, we use play and think a lot of it in how we can engage together. But in truth, this can be hard. We have employees who are faculty, staff, student workers, and then some. Some of us are on campus every day. Some of us can work from home. And despite being an organization who's really trying to embrace DEIA, and we have this as one of our North Star focuses, we still really struggle when it comes to equity. Yet many of us report to different places, different spaces, and maintaining morale and civility can be hard. And then, of course, then we threw in something like a pandemic, and this can completely turn something upside down. But it's really truly what's happening in the makerspace, what's happening in these play moments, and what's happening with creativity. It allows us to really embrace more moments and to bring everyone to the table at a place where they feel comfortable and they can engage. And in my own work as someone who leads from the bottom up, it's important to keep your audience in mind. And for me, this is key. Keep your teammates engaged and don't create any wheels that already exist elsewhere. Make the wheel unique to you. Make it work for you and your communities. Take that wheel, make it what you need it to be, and learn and work with others. And also, we can't do all this with a little assessment, and I won't sugarcoat it. Assessing creativity, play, maker spaces, and a lot of this can sometimes seem really hard. And one important aspect that it comes to in assessment is thinking of in terms to impact, as opposed to thinking and trying to determine if something is successful or not. We cannot determine success. What Yvonne thinks of success and what I think of success, well, for me, it was actually just getting up and getting a cup of coffee this morning and getting to the table and the desk. Or maybe it was getting a major thing accomplished, whatever that might be. Success is a word that's impossible to find because what you think of it might be different than me, and it's definitely going to be different than the person sitting next to you. And often I have to say to others that I work with or bosses that maybe I've worked for in the past that maybe their ideas of success is different than my idea of success. And even think about our patrons. What is success to them? And what we really need is we need goals. We need indicators that will help us reach our goals. And note that sometimes we're going to have multiple goals, short-term and long-term goals. And for me, it's a diverse range of assessment that provides rich content and images that make for dynamic and interesting ways to show how libraries engage with their patrons. And sometimes simply asking people what they learned at the end of a meeting or an event, or a time in the makerspace, or an experience in our libraries that will help us provide rich data that can help one prioritize what's possible, and again, what comes next. And speaking of what comes next, now we're going to look at some tips. So, tip one, be open to what's possible and don't get lost in the past. When it comes to libraries and many civic organizations, there's no question, we will likely never have enough money to fulfill our stakeholders' needs. I can't think of even any library, even a library that I thought had more money than God said to me recently, you know, Megan, even our budgets are hurting these days. I didn't think Princeton would ever say that to me. All right, so I want us to recognize that the other thing I think about a lot, and I found this really beautiful moment and mention when I was writing this second book on play, and it said that, you know what, libraries have been lacking funding since the get-go. We have never had enough funding. We will never have enough funding, and a free t-shirt isn't going to fix it. But we can use creativity and playful engagement, both internally and externally, to learn from the past while staying in the present. And this helps us open up to what's possible, opposed to the ideas of, you know, we've done that before, or yeah, that would never work here. So tip two, meet patrons at their point of need and don't assume that they'll come to us. In 1989, the movie The Field of Dreams helped popularize the phrase, if you build it, they will come. You know, for libraries, this really isn't the case. Even with the best places, spaces, resources, and all the money in the world, we can't assume our stakeholders will come to us. Therefore, we need to meet our patrons at their point of need and make sure that we are fulfilling their needs and wants, not what we think they will need and want. For me, I bring this up in the idea of makerspaces. I can't afford a makerspace in the art library, so therefore we take our pop-up makerspaces out to our communities, engage in spaces where they are. But also, I want to really think about and note that we want to include our stakeholders from the get-go. And this can help us when it comes to getting buy-in. This can help us ensure that we're getting the most impact for every hard-earned dollar and all the work that we're spending. Tip 3, find partners outside of your organization who have common goals to help engage a wider audience. And this is key for any library when it comes to impact. Find partners outside of your organization who has common goals. There are playful people and creative people out there that will want to engage with you. They'll help you share their message. But really, this is a point where you can both bring your messages together. And it's an easier way to influence impact when you have a wider audience. But also for me at Rutgers, I don't do anything without partners. In part, I have no easy access to money. But what I do have is I am a liaison who knows a lot of people. I know who does have the money on campus. I know who will help us share the message. I know who will help with publicity. And really, in turn, what we've become, the Art Library is a trusted partner. Therefore, it's a win for everyone, our stakeholders, especially our stakeholders. Tip 4, keep an ideas book or a journal where you keep your work reflections and thoughts. And this is a place where what you're working on in the makerspace, what you're thinking about creativity and play. And this is a place where you're going to come to visit when you're lacking ideas or you need a solution for an unexpected problem. A wise painting professor once told me, Megan, you keep an ideas book and a journal for the days that you don't have any. Now, he told me this was when I was 20 and I was full of ideas. Well, now that I'm 50, I'm not always as full of the exact ideas and different ideas. So this is a place where I visit when I'm having a long week or I'm looking for an unexpected solution to a problem. And this might be a physical or a virtual space. Ideally, it's in one place. For me, this is also something I do with my students. I create idea books. And to do this, I use scrap paper, paint chips, and staples. But also this is an activity, again, it just takes moments to fold a piece of paper, to find something used, to find anything around. Old book covers. Nobody in the libraries here at Rutgers, we don't have book covers on our books. So therefore we use those resources in playful and creative ways. And it finds the spaces that we can use and keep our ideas. Tip 5, consider creating life-size cardboard cutouts of yourself. This can be a great way to be present in your communities 24/7. When you can't physically be present. So listen, if you want to make impact, consider one of these cutouts. These are a great way to be present in your departments or your spaces 24/7. For me, when I created these, I would say the first ones I made were probably 5 or 6 years ago. There are 7 cardboard Megans. 2 of them have been stolen. One that was stolen apparently went to the Snoop Dogg concert that was held after COVID in honor of all those that graduated. And I was told Cardboard Megan never came home. Where I am now, I still don't know. The art department has made artworks with my cardboard cutout in ways that I don't even think I have a head anymore. Yet we can talk about some of the implications of what they really are doing or thinking. But what these really do is they create street credit for me. Having these in my departments and areas which I work gets more people into my lap, into the libraries, asking questions. They're curious. And if you knew the amount of selfies that I have of people that sent these, they see me and they say, ooh, I need to talk to you because, again, about 7 years, these cost me around $100 US dollars. But really, if you have a large scale printer and some cardboard, you could do this yourself for not very much money. So I want you to think about that. And beyond these, I wish I had, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this one. You can see I have a mini Megan. This is about 18 inches. I send these on days where I'm not free to go to events, and I'll have them surrounded with swag. That particular one is a magnet that's on the side of a vending machine. But again, I want you to think about, how do you engage with those? How do you share your message? I also have all sorts of interesting signs. Tip 6, consider creating a zine or a coloring book to highlight your organization's programs or services. At Rutgers, we've created 2 versions of our Art Library coloring book, and in truth, these are self-directed learning experiences. They're like the content covered in a 50-minute one-shot bibliographic session. But also consider creating a zine, and these are incredible resources to teach with and can help share your message. I bet I've created about 50 zines in the last 6 or 7 years now at Rutgers, and students love them. We ran some tests where we gave them the fancy brochures that the Rutgers University Libraries prints every year, spends thousands and thousands of dollars. And unfortunately, you want to know what happens to those? I throw them out in the recycling bin at the end of the semester. I've yet to throw out a zine. What's fascinating about the zine is when I give these to them, students look at how are these made? What has been happened here? Because all you really need to tell a story, you need to know a little bit about visual literacy, which I can teach them. And all you really need is a pen, a writing implement, and this is an 8.5, 11 piece of paper. So I often give also individuals my zine business card. People are blown away by this. If you give someone a business card or your business card, you're giving them a really nice piece of cardstock, perhaps with the title of who you are on it. Well, when you receive my business card zine, you get 8 panels that tell you my story. You actually also will see the books that I've written. You'll see a link to find more about me. And you'll get to know a little bit more, other than when I come home from a conference with 30 cards, I question, who was Yvonne Silva? Unless I actually stopped to write down a little bit about that conversation we had. So again, a zine, a micro portfolio tells a story. And if it's a good story, it leaves someone wanting more. Tip 7, embrace assessment. No one ever says this because it's hard and it can be difficult, but there's no question we are busy human beings, and the idea of finding time to reflect after an event, a moment, can be really daunting. However, this is a really important task. Collecting and reflecting on feedback is key to advancing any idea, and there's a lot of ways in which you can do this. And we can learn from our experiences, and they're helpful to inform what comes next. And this also gives us an opportunity to try out something new. And again, put those old ideas away, things that aren't working. Or the other thing I tell people, and they really sometimes don't agree with me when I say this, but if you've got something that's working really, really well, maybe you're getting tired of it. Put it away for a few years. Make your communities want it. They'll come back even fierce. We did this with our edible books. People were on fire after we simply put it away for a few years. And, I think in economics, we call that supply and demand. And what we do in the libraries is no different. Tip 8, don't recreate the wheel. Learn from everyone else. And these are ideas that we're thinking about in makerspaces as well. Many of us work for large organizations that are filled with many places and spaces, and I encourage you to get to know your colleagues, get to know the people around you, get to know the organizations, get to know the people who are using your spaces. Pay attention to your peers in the field when it comes to trying out new ideas, because it's a big world out there, and there really is no need to recreate the wheel. Make that wheel yours. Make it unique. We need to learn from each other so that we can be more efficient and really save our strength for the times when we really need it. Tip 9, follow your passions. Brian Auger, the director of the Somerset County Library System in New Jersey, notes how important he believes it is for his employees to participate in professional development opportunities and to engage and learn outside of the libraries. Auger encourages employees to use part of their work time. He gives them an hour, I believe, a month to join a community organization that they love, to be part of a local board, to take some kind of local civic responsibility, because inevitably they're representing the libraries. And this is a great way for library workers to get to know your communities, to get to know the people that you work with and you live with and engage with. And this doesn't have to cost a lot of money. Being part of our communities allows us to work and advocate for our organizations. As Auger pointed out, this is a kind of a civic engagement that gets libraries a seat at the table. It connects us to our communities, and it gives us an opportunity to brag on ourselves, to share about what we do and what we have. And this is a great way for library employees to follow their passions while they help their communities share what's possible within libraries. And tip 10, consider routinely engaging play at work. Finally, I really want to encourage you all and everyone here today and who will watch this after the fact, consider engaging play and creativity at work. Although it might seem odd or open up a can of questions, give it a try and see what happens. You might be surprised. But also something as simple as button making can provide playful and creative opportunities when it comes to teaching copyright, finding images, visual literacy, and more. At the Rutgers University Libraries, we've been making buttons since 2016, and we've made, are you ready for this? Over 48,000 buttons. Even better, we've partnered with over 400 organizations outside of the libraries. And in truth, the button making gets us in the door. And it's the creative and playful learning is that takes care of the rest. And that's actually what gets us invited back. For all of this work we've done in this last 8 some years, it's cost us less than $4,000, which is pretty outstanding. Yet it's gained the libraries an incredible amount of goodwill, over the top impact. And in some cases, it's gotten us seats at the table where we've been trying to dine for years. So really, why does any of this matter? Well, we talked a little bit about the pedagogy of play, and we looked at a couple examples where I talked here and there. But really, why? Well, play strengthens ties in local communities and our surrounding neighborhoods, which simply builds goodwill for libraries. Play encourages engagement, which helps form partnerships and promotes cross-disciplinary collaboration. And that's what brings new users into our libraries, our spaces, our makerspaces, any spaces. And you can't learn from a book, but you can learn from a playful, ephemeral, physical, or virtual experience. Human beings are important. We need humans. I love ChatGPT for the few things that I use it for here and there, but when it really comes down to it, I want a person. And that's what people engage and love in the libraries. I often say to my students, very rarely do they say, oh, that EBSCOhost database is just banger. You know, it's that experience of having it with me and when I showed them to use it. So I want us to remember that. Playful events and hands-on learning opportunities can hone problem-solving skills, which are tools that are essential when performing library research, but also working together as a community means that we can rely on each other. And this is important for morale, for fiscal and labor support, particularly when times are hard. And you don't need a lot of money to engage play or creativity. Be playful and creative when it comes to our services and events. Be resourceful. I think when I got here around 2013, I sent out an email to our all campus listserv. I'm sorry, to just the Rutgers University Library listservs. I have still got resources to make stuff. It was like everybody went into their crafting cabinets and started sending me wild and crazy stuff. And I still get boxes of stuff. And you know what? People are cleaning out and get rid of their things they feel good about. And then it's also this idea that we get things that we can use. So lastly, being playful, engaging creativity, and turning outwards can help libraries and organizations tell their stories in interesting ways, which shows our impact amongst our community. So we've come to the end of the part where I'm going to talk today, and I want you to think a little bit about what did you learn? In fact, what I would like you to do, I'd like you to spend the next 60 seconds typing up to 3 things in the meeting chat that tells me what you learned today. All right? And we're just going to have a minute of silence. 3 things that you learned today. Please is what I meant to say to that. And as you're thinking about these 3 things, if we were all together physically in person, I would give you a piece of paper and I would say to you, please write down 3 physical things. I do this at the end of a teaching session. I do this at the end of a one-on-one session. I do this at the end of a keynote session if I'm speaking to 600 people. And what I then do is I create a spreadsheet, just a plain old Excel spreadsheet. And I look back to what everyone learned. And I can actually go back to what I told them, what I taught them. I can go back in the case of the library's goals and missions and pair what they learned. And this is a really powerful moment. But also, when I'm in smaller classes of 10 to 25 students, we stop and everybody goes around the room and reads one thing out loud. Now, what's important about this is all we're doing is assessment. We're asking someone to tell us, what did you learn? When you're in a moment and in a room, people will say, I learned that too, or oh my gosh, I want to do that, or have you seen? But what we're really doing is we're asking you all to apply what you just learned, what you're thinking about. And this is a moment that really allows the learner to situate the moment and to situate what we're thinking about and how they might move forward, right? So this is what we really want, because if we want someone to think about what they've learned on that moment, it gives you a point of grounding. When I walk away from a session at a conference, I say to myself, Megan, what did you learn? If I don't stop and write that down quickly in my journal, if I don't stop and write that down, I'm not necessarily going to remember why I should remember that or why I love that session so much. So, what I would like to say now, would anyone like to share what they learned out loud? And I will say we've got a lot of really great things here. Yeah, the Snoop Dogg. You know what? I still to this day I'm just like, I wonder where is cardboard Megan? I pray that I'm not somewhere being treated badly. I agree. Always have a partner. A partner is a great thing. Let's
Hi,
see. Go ahead.
hi, Kelly Nemitz. I'm one of the other events and programs committee members for Library Makers. One thing that I was excited that I saw on here when you mentioned like one of the tips where it's like, when you're making a zine or even like making a coloring book that, advertises for events and stuff like that. Our coloring pages around here are pretty popular in general, and I had started making coloring pages just based off of like our owl mascot that we had gotten recently, and it's kind of giving me some
Yes.
inspiration to like maybe put together like one for teens or something that highlights certain programs, because there's like a lot of programs, especially this summer, that I'm excited to share with them and trying to increase that um increase that teen attendance. So I'm always looking ways to engage with them more often.
I love that. Suddenly you're coloring something and you realize you're learning. And then suddenly you've spent 20 minutes coloring something and you've looked at that one message that you wanted your people to see for so long. It's such stealthy teaching. And that's really what so much of this is. It's the makerspace through and through. You don't even know you're learning. It's you're experiencing this process. So I absolutely love this. I'm not sure if learning is a discrete action, point in time that can be described as such versus an ongoing contribution to a continuous process. Henry, tell me a little bit more about what you mean here.
So I'm all in with most of what you described. I have some questions about the cardboard cutout, but that, you're always learning the same things over and over again, and the more you hear about that kind of thing being echoed back at you, like that's the learning kind of like like a continuous process of engagement with the same challenges that I my experience has been in life is that that continuous failure and sort of ephemeral success is like leading you into the future, versus like
Uh,
I learned X, I learned that you guys do edible books, but I mean I'm gonna find out about it.
yeah, absolutely. And I think that the thing we have to be realistic about is a lot of times that we're only in the presence of these people. And absolutely, by getting us to repeat this idea of what they're learning, go around the room, you're absolutely right. This repetitive idea and learning is what gets people to get this into their minds. And then how they take that forward, I think, is what that important thing is. Because you're right, Nadine, deep learning is not one and done. It's how you take that forward. That's what really matters.
Go team.
Yeah, absolutely. And edible books, let me tell you, I came across my first edible books at the University of Wisconsin, and probably this is going to tell my age, 2008-ish. And I remember walking into this room thinking, what the heck is happening here? And this was something that was created by Judith Hofberg and Beatrice Caron many, many years ago. And let me tell you what, people love it. You can do it physically, you can do it virtually, but just Google edible books and prepare to spend like the next 20 minutes laughing and being amazed and then thinking about what could you make in a makerspace or in some of these making ideas of how do you explore this. And we've had our campus cooks come to our edible events. We had the chemistry librarian come in and do some alchemy and chemistry with food. So there's a lot of opportunity with all of these sorts of things. Other thoughts?
Yeah, people keep asking us to get a chocolate 3D printer. Um, it's not happening, but it keeps coming back. This idea. The other thing I wanted to mention is, for instance, in our library, seems to be that the makerspace is perceived as the fun space versus the rest of the library. Just wondering, like, do we have a responsibility to say, hey, you are also fun? Because we're definitely engaged in play versus all the time and tinkering. And if that same approach can be used by every department at the library.
So I love it when, so I get that. I get a lot. I mean, throughout my career, I would say that I don't get as many naysayers now, but, 23 peer-reviewed papers, 2 books, 71 conference presentations. I've been flown over all over the world. I don't get as many naysayers now. However, I've also found those communities to engage in. And I think that one of the things that I want to say here is this idea of, it's okay to be the fun space in the library. And quite frankly, right on if you are, because I'm here to tell you there's a lot of boring stuff that's going on in the library system where I work. And I think, certainly the boring spaces aren't getting the kind of play that we perhaps are in the maker spaces or in some of these active learning spaces. And I think that one of the things that I was came across when I was researching the second book was one of the maker spaces was talking about how they were dealing with naysayers was they just have big signs all over telling people this is what you're learning. Or having boards, having a piece of paper tacked up on the wall saying, what did you learn today? So that then your administration and someone can come in and again and look at that and get some ideas of what's really happening in this space and why should we even care. And I think that that's really important. For me, I remind individuals when we're doing these playful hands-on things that sometimes this is what's helping solidify, as we noted that point before. I teach some things. We do a 50-minute course or 50-minute course, bibliographic course in the libraries at Rutgers. Most academic libraries do this. And one thing that I think librarians do in this well is to do it really boring. And you've got to add some interactive aspect in it so that we can get back to that idea, like Henry said, that I can say to them, here's what I want you to learn. Then we're going to take a hands active break. Then we're going to go back to say, oh, let's talk more about what we wanted to learn. And then we'll take another active break. And I would say that I think it's okay to have fun in the libraries. And I'm here to tell you, I would be nowhere in my career as a human being and as a learner if there wasn't fun involved. So I think that the most important that I always say is we've got to get away from this idea that it's not okay to have fun in the libraries. The other thing we can do in the libraries too, we can be loud. We can have glitter. People tell me not anything but glitter. And I'm like, actually you can have glitter. There's things called vacuums. So yeah. And I always say too to anybody, if you're dealing with naysayers and you're like, again, like this notice of we can only have this if we get a grant. We can only have this. Send me an email, even if you just need to talk. I always say I have virtual candy and Kleenex in my office because sometimes you just need to talk it out with someone else. And that's the thing to remember too. And I agree, Nadine, if I'm not having fun, I'm not learning. Yeah, that glitter. Oh, don't even get me started. But a lot of people hate glitter. My mom hates glitter, probably why I love glitter. Other thoughts, comments? All right, I'm going to go on. Let's see. If you want to learn more about my books, the positive about this, I would say that both of them, I think, are in 200 plus libraries. So check them out via your local libraries. Or if you have any other issues accessing, certainly please let me know. I will say most of what I talk about in my books are also probably somewhere in an additional article. And I also have a research guide that will take you to absolutely everything that I've written, either in an open access format of some sorts, I think beyond the books. So certainly always ask me questions. Thanks again. If you have a question or an idea that pops up after the fact, don't hesitate to reach out. I love to chat. I love to hear what others are doing. What others do inspires me, just like working with our patrons. So yeah. Other thoughts, comments, concerns? And I agree, Henry. Henry, you said it best. Connection of human-centered design and with play. Play should be the process of everything. how we engage with each other, how we engage with our colleagues.
Great. Thank you. I think if we don't have any more questions, I want to thank everyone for attending our 10 tips to engage play with Megan Lotz. Also, I want to share my screen quickly. Just want to show you something, a little something. Let's see, share this screen. Yeah, so as part of Library Makers, we are in the election process of recruiting folks like you. If you want to participate and help engage and build this community, there's positions available. There's all volunteer positions. We're all doing this as volunteers to grow this social network of library maker workers. So feel free to reach out. And also, we would love to hear your feedback on this event. So Kelly's going to post a little survey on the chat. Please fill it out. Let us know how your feedback. And also, when we do a follow-up email, we'll send a link to the survey, so you'll get a chance to do it again. And we hope to see you at the Library Makers platform for more discussions. It's a great place to share and get answers, ask questions. About everything related to making, playing, and maker spaces in libraries. So thank you for attending the presentation.